Folks, welcome into a brand new episode of Trainwreck Fantasy Baseball. As always, Wake here with some guy named Steve. Long Island Nick is out. He's feeling a little under the weather, so T's and P's over to Long Island Nick. Art Conzarelli also out tonight, so we just got the two-man show, but we're going to bring you all the fantasy baseball knowledge that we can for this week. A lot to get to. Corbin Burns, the Oakland Athletics, a lot of pitchers we want to get to, but first, something more important we got to get to. You know how it goes. The flowers are blooming. The grass is growing. It's springtime. It's time to chop the weeds. And thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped, you can trim safely and efficiently. Of course, I'm talking about the ball trimmers. Manscaped, the global leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming, have an exclusive offer for you guys. Use promo code TRAINWRECK, get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. It's a movement like no other. 2 million men worldwide trust Manscaped. I'm one of them. So many guys here at Trainwreck are. So many of our guests are. So you should become one too. Manscaped is here to make sure you are trimmed and smelling nice. After all, it is time for some spring cleaning. You do see the promo code at the bottom there, promo code TRAINWRECK, 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Steve, it's been a weird week in baseball, kind of, hasn't it? What's so many big storylines from the past week. What sticks out to you as maybe the most notable?
Well, I think we got to start right off with the Oakland Athletics, who have had a complete 180 from the start of their season to now. The A's, I believe they were 1-7 to start the year. They're now winners of 11 straight, and they have been absolutely dominant in those games. They've outscored their opponents 71-33.
And that's after being outscored 50-13 in their first six.
Well, that's the thing. You look at the standings. The A's still have a negative run differential. They have a -2 run differential after an 11-game win streak where they've been crushing everybody. It's been a remarkable turnaround. They have 4 shutouts in their last 6 games. Their pitching seems to be back, and their bats are heating up, especially Matt Olson, who right now it feels like he's hitting a home run every day. I believe he's got 6 home runs in the 11-game win streak. He's batting like .390.
Yep. It's crazy that he's never gotten an all-star nod yet. This seems like it'll be the year for him, right?
I will always pull for Matt Olson because he has been like my budget first baseman for so many years, like before he became popular, just because he's a guy who has 40 home run potential. Help's been a concern here and there, and his average isn't the best. But when Matt Olson's on, he can win you a week. He can win a week. He'll hit 5-6 home runs in a week, driving 12 RBIs, and that's really what Matt Olson's doing right now. So I will always like Matt Olson, and with the A's too. I think the A's are a very likable team in general. I don't know a lot of people who don't like the A's, and also too, they're kind of the team that always goes back and forth with the Astros. And ever since the whole cheating scandal came out, I think everyone's even more on top of the A's.
Yeah, for sure. So
I'm loving this 11-game win streak. For fantasy, impacts, like I said, Matt Olson's been great. Jed Lowry has been another guy who's, been sneaky good.
Mm-hmm. He usually surfs the waiver wire on and off all year. I feel like he's one of those guys that I seem to pick up 3 times a year. And now this is the first time between him and Joey Wendell, 2 guys who are stereotypical waiver wire guys, now have found homes for themselves, and they're basically carrying their teams right now as best they can.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like Jed Lowry, I wouldn't be shocked in a month if we saw him right back on the waiver wire. But he's that type of player. He's so volatile. You want to pick him up when he's hot because he's another guy who can bat like 400 over like 2-3 weeks. Just keep him in your lineup, and then when he cools off, just drop him. No one's going to be rushing to pick up Jed Lowry, and no one's going to give you the kitchen sink for Jed Lowry. So he's kind of those fantasy players I really like, because they're just guys you could just kind of transfer between your roster and the waiver wire and not have to really worry about anyone stealing them.
Mm-hmm. That's what last week, I believe we said that that fantasy is won. Basically, it's not lost in the draft for baseball. Right. It's won in free agency. And if Jed Lowry is one of those guys that you can keep cycling, I swear, like I said, I do that every single year. What's interesting to me about the Athletics is it's their pitching started cold all at the same time, and now everyone from Chris Bassett, who's been the only one consistent, actually, credit to him, he's been really good. But from Sean Manaea to Cole Irvin, who it has a career like 7 ERA, they cooled off to start the season, and now all of them are hot right now. I mean, like, I feel like for the past few years, the Athletics, and Jed Lowry kind of goes right perfectly into this, they've just been such a streaky team.
Mm-hmm.
So, that begs the question, how is, like, they're not going to win. The franchise record for wins is 20 in a row. They're halfway there.
Right.
So fun to speculate about it, but they're not a team with the talent to win 20 games in a row, are they?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I think for the A's in my life, the past 15 years has been there are a bunch of guys that no one really knows of. They just seem to play well every single year. And that's what I love about the Oakland Athletics. They don't really have superstars on this team. You could say Chapman is a potential super. Yeah, but he's
11 in a row. He's a non-factor.
Exactly. He's phenomenal defensively. His bat's been struggling this year.
Yeah.
But Matt Olson, he's not a superstar. His name's becoming a little more popular. Yet they have one of the top prospect pitchers, Jesus Luzardo, who finally had a good start, which it took long enough for that to happen. But that's not another guy too that everyone knows. The Oakland Athletics just have a bunch of guys who get the job done year in, year out. And that's why I kind of like this team, because they don't have, those popular names, but they're just consistent. They're a grind you down team. And it looks like another year where the Athletics are figuring it out, and they're just going to be better than people expected.
And so they and the Astros have kind of completely flipped. The Astros started out super hot, and now they're 7-10. Athletics started out 0-6, and now they lead that division. They're at 12-7. So, between them, Mariners, Angels, Rangers, and Astros, I think the only one we can completely rule out to win the AL West would probably be the Rangers, just because I feel like they have the lowest ceiling and by far the lowest floor. Right.
Although shout out Nick Solak, who's starting to figure it out. He's striking out less. I know we talked about him a little bit last week as a guy to hold on to because he has that potential. Mm-hmm. He's starting to show it. He is starting to show it. But I would say, the Rangers are definitely the bottom team in that division. Mm-hmm. The Mariners have been surprisingly decent.
Right? Their batting has been shocking to start the year, to be honest.
And it's really going to get better.
Mm-hmm. Between Mitch Haniger, and I know that was your call, and the week before that with Cons and Nick in the first episode, they both had some Mariners to put out there too. So that's another interesting team that, I'll be honest, I didn't prepare enough about. So we'll talk more about the Mariners next week, because I think they do deserve some more love than I'm able to give them right now. But I know we wanted to get into talking about some pitchers too. Most notably, okay, first of all, second most notably, Rob, I'm never going to say go Yankees unironically. But most notably with pitchers this past week in the MLB is Corbin Burns just doing a complete 180 on his career, to be completely honest. Like, if you were to ask me, give me a list of 20 pitchers who you think can set any MLB record in 2021, Corbin Burns would not have been on that list. So Steve, like, what's 40 strikeouts, no walks? He used to be a reliever. Like, what do you think is leading to this just inexplicable run of his?
Well, that's the thing. His rookie year, he was disastrous. It was one of the worst years we've ever seen. And I know he was, a guy they said could have great stuff, but that rookie year was so bad. So many people wrote him off. Shortened season last year, he kind of found it a little bit. He had like a 2 ERA, a really good K per 9. But I don't think people really believed in it. Shortened season, you had the larger sample size with it was too tough to tell which year is the legitimate Corbin Burns. But I think the start of this year, I don't think we can deny his stuff anymore. Corbin Burns, and we'll talk about another guy later too, but I think he is going to be one of the next aces of baseball. With the pitch arsenal he has, everything moves. His cutter is, you can't hit it. You just can't hit it.
You can't hit it. The stat of the day, I tweeted it yesterday for Trainwreck Fantasy. I know you liked the tweet. Is that where the hell is it? Opposing batters are 4-41 with 20 strikeouts in any at bat, ending with a Corbin Burns cutter. That is a .098 batting average.
It's ridiculous.
Genuinely unheard of. Now, I am going to say, I'm pumping the brakes on my expectations for him, at least this year, because even up until this year, the most innings he's ever gone in a game is 7. This year, he's gone 6, 6, 6, and 6.1.
Right.
So you're not going to get the big innings totals. You're not going to get the big strikeout. Okay, no, you're getting the strikeouts. Who am I kidding?
Oh, his K per nine's ridiculous right now.
Yeah, but you're not going to get the complete games, which I know are anomalies anyways. You're not going to get the complete game shutouts, no hitters, and all that. But man, I would never advise to sell Corbin Burns, but these 4 weeks are his ceiling. He's not going to keep pitching like this. He has the single best strikeout rate in baseball right now, and it's up in like the 30s.
He's also first in FIP with a .82 FIP, which is, you'll never see that. You will never see that. His WHIP is .33. That a starting pitcher never has near that WHIP. So saying this is a ceiling, I agree. This is almost every pitcher's ceiling at this point. What Corbin Burns doing is sensational. His swinging strikes, 66 swinging strikes, a 19% swinging strike rate in 4 games. Those are both above elite averages.
Yeah.
He's been consistent. 15 swinging strikes in this first game, then 16, then 19, then 16 again. Even if he doesn't get to that 7th inning, he's been phenomenal. And he's someone, I've watched too. A lot of times, like I say, you can read a box score, you can look at stats and be like, oh, this guy, he's pretty good. I've watched a couple of Corbin Burns starts this year. He looks good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's hitting the paint on the just in the strike zone more often. Like every time when my friend Eric and I used to play MLB The Show together, every time, and he would always kill me. Fuck this guy. He would always, every time there was a strike on the line, he would just yell paint. And now whenever I see a strike, a called third strike right on the edge of the strike zone, I instinctively do that myself. Watching Corbin Burns, I almost lose my voice. I'm not even kidding.
He only hits corners this year. It's been to have, his location right now and have 0 walks. The way he's locating pitches is unbelievable. It's something we really haven't seen in a long time, especially from a guy who, like I said, his rookie year, it looked like, okay, this guy, he's never going to do anything. He just can't figure it out. But sometimes with these pitchers that have the pitches and the high ceiling, you got to wait a few years and see, once they develop, location, command, what can happen. And with Corbin Burns, it's been masterful.
Yeah, and this is just his 4th professional season. So, obviously these pitchers, you have to wait for them to develop a little bit. Corbin Burns, I think he's even ahead of the curve, to be completely honest. When I said I'm not going to advise selling high on him, at least, let's say you're a team with Corbin Burns, but you have a lot of issues in your batters.
Yeah.
Just start testing the waters. Don't say, hey, I want to trade Corbin Burns, because then people are going to be like, wait, what the hell are you thinking? People, if they see, oh, I need a hitter, and they look at your lineup and see someone who just broke an MLB record, they might throw some stupid trade offers out there that might end up looking good to you. So don't go out there, post on the message board, but definitely maybe test the waters, because you're not going to keep getting this. Capitalize on it while you can. Anything else on Corbin? I know you have one more pitcher you want to get to before we do buy low, sell high.
I do, and I will say one more thing on Corbin is you're not going to get, better value than you can for him right now. If you did want to sell him, what do you think his price is going to be? People have to be valuing him as one of the top pitchers in baseball right now. You look at what he's done, you can make that argument.
Honestly.
Yeah, you really could try to get whatever you want for Corbin Burns. His value, it can't go any higher than it is right now.
No, absolutely not. And another pitcher with incredibly high value is Tyler Glasnow.
Yeah.
Steve, you said you wanted to bring him up on this show, so I'll let you kick this off.
So I wanted to bring him up last week, and then I watched another one of his starts. He was great again, so I figured why not bring him up this week? Kind of same deal as Corbin Burns. He's a guy who, how long he could go into games was his big concern, and kind of, pitching command. But Glasnow, it looks like he's figured out those little kinks, and he has a new pitch now, his slider, that has complemented his 100-mile-an-hour fastball wonderfully. Mm-hmm. And Glasnow, he just looks like the guy who's going to be one of the next, generational aces. 6'8", he's that tall, skinny pitcher who just has dominant stuff. He, like I said, he can throw triple digits. He has a great curveball, added a great slider this year. And like Corbin Burns, his stats are backing him up. I mean, 36 strikeouts to 7 walks and 4 starts. As a guy who usually struggles with location, that's a great start for him. He's third in baseball with FIP, so, that's supporting what he's doing. And his swinging strikes are just as good as Corbin Burns. 12, 14, 12, and 25 swinging strikes in a single start, which is the highest in baseball this year. I mean, he's got elite numbers to back up what he's doing, and he's another guy, too. I've watched, I think, every one of his starts this year. When you're watching it, it supports, everything you read in the box score. He just looks like a guy who has figured it out, and I'm very happy because I have him in every single one of my leagues this year. He was kind of one of my guys coming into the year, and I kept him in a dynasty league, which I'm super stoked about for that.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot. I've only watched one Tyler Glasnow game, and it was the one last weekend against the Yankees. So
that was probably his worst start of the year, too. He still pitched great.
And that's what I want to say. In what was his worst start of the year, he came away with 5 innings, 1 run, and 7 strikeouts. If that's your worst start of the year so far, that's your floor. He's easily the safest pitcher in all of baseball. And the ump in that game was terrible behind the plate. He missed, I think I counted 3 called third strikes, I think. Yeah. Minimum.
And that's the thing, too. Yeah. That adds up. You miss one of those, here comes a base runner. Here comes a base runner. And usually that used to get to Glasnow, the past couple of years.
That's what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. He's just matured so much. It's so easy. I'm going to say I used to pitch. This was in Little League, so take it with a grain of salt. But when you're pitching and you're doing everything right and it's still not working out, it takes such a mental toll on you. And just credit to Tyler Glasnow for powering through and just having the Sean McDermott mental toughness to when everything is working against you to get out. And even he earned the win that day too. It's not just he got a no decision. He earned the win, and he deserves the credit for it. We'll get into buy low, sell high now. I'll let you go first again. As this goes every week, we'll each give one guy for buy low, one guy for sell high. And then we'll get into some free agent ads, and then we will get out of here for the week. So, Steve, who is your buy low?
So this pains me to say because I'm a Cardinals fan, but my buy low is Anthony Rizzo of the Chicago Cubs, and for a number of reasons. The first reason is first baseman has been a wasteland this year in fantasy. Yeah. We knew it was going to be kind of lower going into the season, but it's been pretty bad. A lot of the stars are struggling, and it's not deep at all. One of the guys I'm going to talk about in my waiver wire pickups, he's the number 4 first baseman, and I bet half baseball fans haven't even heard of him. But Anthony Rizzo, popular name, but he's kind of struggled. He struggled badly last year, and he struggled at the start of this year, and the Cubs offense was absolutely dreadful. The first 13 games this year, I think they averaged 2.6 runs a game, which was easily the worst in baseball. And Rizzo was a large part of that. He's batting terribly, but a lot of it was bad luck. And I kind of expect to see regression go the other way with Rizzo. He's right now he's batting 246, so he's picking up a little bit. He's got 3 home runs, 2 steals, only 5 RBIs. So the counting stats really haven't been there, which kind of hurts his value a little bit. But that's good if you want to buy low on somebody. You want the counting stats low because when the Cubs offense gets better, those are going to go up. And the Cubs offense, 36 runs in their last 4 games, 9 runs a game, a little better than the 2.6 in the first 13. Yeah. But Rizzo's a guy that I think still has something to give. And his fly ball rate is up. His BABIP is 50 points lower than Major League average. And what BABIP is, it's batting average of balls hit and play. So basically, what that's saying is Rizzo's just gotten unlucky on the balls hitting the plate. His hard hit rate is up from last year and above Major League average. And his last 7 games, he's batting .400, and he has both his home runs in that game. I think Rizzo's hitting the ball well. The Cubs offense is getting better, but the year-long numbers don't really show that he's having a good year. I think he turns it around pretty quickly, and I think right now is a good time to go in and get him for you really wouldn't have to give up too much because a lot of people that have Rizzo this this year probably know what Rizzo did last year, and they're just kind of tired of him underperforming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm completely with you on Anthony Rizzo. He was someone that I almost drafted this past year, and I was kind of worried about some regression. And he's someone that I don't know why. And this is just one of those instincts that paid off. I thought he might start a little slow. Every year there are veteran players who are usually consistent that get behind the curve. And it's usually hitters are ahead of the curve of pitchers at the beginning of the year. Sometimes for whatever reason, there are people who, start at an all-time low basically at the beginning of the year. Someone that I'm going to bring up for my buy low is basically kind of in the same boat, a name brand, not off to the best start. And that might be the only reason it's hard to buy low on these guys is because it is a name brand. Also, my guy, he does already have 3 homers this year. It's Freddie Freeman. His batting average, 222, but his expected batting average is 5th highest in the MLB. And I would understand why the 3 home runs might make it difficult for someone to sell off on Freddie Freeman. Like, it's hard to find someone with like just such the high average exit velocity, max exit velocity. He's up there in hard hit rate percentage in the MLB too. Like, all the underlying numbers are there. He just can't get on base consistent enough. So this is more one of those, you have to play your league and see what his owner needs. If his owner is losing batting average every single week, you want to go swing for Freddie Freeman. If his owner has a ridiculously high batting average, he's not going to want to give him up. So, both kind of same with Anthony Rizzo. You kind of got to play the league and play, like, you have to know the owners of the teams in your league too. But as far as Freddie Freeman goes, he's been doing what he's been doing this year, without without Ozzy Albies, who might be hurt. He took Ozzy Albies' spot at 2, and he's been struggling all year. So if Albies gets healthy, the prospects of having a healthy Albies and a healthy Freeman in the same lineup at the same time, we've seen what that can be before. And so I'm just buying in on the ceiling of the potential of those two getting back together. But Freeman is more of a risk, I would say, based on his batting average this year.
I would also say, too, you probably have to give up a little more for Freeman than you would for Rizzo, just because Freeman has the potential to be the top-rated first baseman and really give you, top 2-round potential stats. But Freeman's a guy, I love the Braves offense. Acuna's coming back this weekend. And if you're batting behind Acuna, there's a lot of RBI opportunities.
Yeah. No, I can't believe I forgot to say Acuna was coming back. Thank you for saying that. Then we'll go into sell high here. I just did this unironically. That's fucking hilarious. My sell high is going to be, I keep doing it now that I'm thinking about it, is someone who is probably one of the most famous names in baseball just because of what he did in the playoffs last year. But he's followed it up pretty well, but not to the extent to justify his ADP that he was drafted at, and that's Randy Arozarena. Like I said, extraordinarily memorable playoff surge. It was ridiculous what he did last year. And
he hit a home run almost every game.
Almost every game. And, people thought that he might be able to be one of those 2020 guys this year. It's not. It could be there. It looks like it could be. His batting, his average is 246, which isn't great. But, his underlying numbers are really good. And, I feel like he's hit his peak from last year where you might be able to convince someone to sell high. It really, the point of bringing a Arozarena up is you got to make good use of the assets that you have. Forget about the pick that you spent on him. If you don't think he's living up to that, there's someone who's going to see that he's on your team and you want to give him up. And they're going to be like, oh, it's Arozarena. Do you remember what he did last year? Like, it's easy to sell high on the name brands, even when they're performing at an average to slightly above average level. And so that's why I was happy I didn't end up drafting him in any league this year.
Yeah, I didn't take him in any either, just because I think you're right. His draft position was inflated by what he did in the postseason. That always kind of scares me a little bit because it's such a small sample size.
Exactly.
But that's one of my biggest tips for fantasy baseball, too. Once we get about a month into the season, just forget about ADP. Forget where you took these guys. If they're not performing to the level you expect, get rid of them. And I think to your point, there could be someone who recognizes the name, Randy or Rosarena, recognizes what he does and goes, hey, there might be potential there. And they could pay more than what you even expect to get from him. So I like that pick a lot.
Yeah, and I was wrong about his batting average. I don't know how I had it wrong, but I said it was 246. It's 279, which is much better, to be completely honest. It could be difficult to get someone to buy into his high strikeout total. It's up to 24, and he's only walked 4 times. But at the same time, I think that that 279 batting average is probably the peak for him. And for someone who's struggling in that category, might be willing to send you a decent pitcher, a decent reliever, which, as we've seen with all the injuries, it's good to have as many relief pitchers as you can in the MLB right now, especially if you're a Julian Merriweather guy like I and Jordan Romano. And now I'm not going to do Rafael DeLeese because that just sounds depressing. So who's your sell high, and then we'll get into some guys to buy on the free agent market.
So my sell high is someone whose stats look pretty good, but it's get what you can for him now, because I think in a month people are just going to render this guy useless, and that's Tyler Naquin of the Cincinnati Reds.
In the first episode, he was a free agent ad recommendation. That's how fast things move in fantasy baseball.
Well, and that's the thing too. He wasn't a bad free agent, pickup. That wasn't bad at all. He's been great so far. Yeah. It's just he's batting 260, 6 home runs, 18 RBIs, and slugging 640. That's a great season if you keep up that pace all year long. I just don't think he'll sustain that. And that's one of my biggest reasons for sell highs is trade away the guys whose stats look good but are kind of deceptive. Tyler Naquin, he's the 4th outfielder in Cincinnati. It doesn't matter how he's performing, but since Jesse Winker's been back, he's been playing almost every day. The Reds still want to get Nick Senzel regular at-bats because he was, a top prospect at one point. They want to get him the at-bats. And they have Nick Castellanos, who just came back from a suspension today. I believe he hit a home run. So there you go, Rob Manfred. Suck on that. But the Reds have, 3 solid outfielders. Naquin's 4th. He's kind of the odd man out. There's no DH in the NL. Once again, thank you, Rob Manfred. But Naquin's a guy, his stats look pretty good. He's just not playing that much anymore. He's sat out 4 of the last 9 games. And although the year-long stats look good, he's not going to keep that pace up. He's probably someone who's going to eventually be dropped anyways. So if you could just get, an okay starting pitcher for him, a guy who can give you, a few quality starts here and there, or maybe, a bench bat that has potential to be something more, that's what I'm selling Naquin at. I know sell high, everyone thinks, sell high, take a guy and try to get, a first-round talent for him. That's not realistic, especially if you're in leagues with owners that know what they're doing. So try to trade a guy whose stats, they look pretty good on paper, but you kind of know that a downfall is coming. And Tyler Naquin is a guy who I think, it's just he's not playing enough, and the Reds really have kind of made it known that they want to keep Senzel in the lineup. They really want to try to see if he can develop. And Castellanos and Jesse Winker have been, looking like everyday players. So I think Naquin's a good guy to try to, get what you can for him now before it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I love fantasy baseball, because if you hit on some of these guys who are good free agent ads, you can just keep spinning assets and just keep adding like actually valuable pieces to your team. It's by far the most challenging, but when you get the feel for it, it's pretty rewarding to see, how you go from the team that you drafted into having, mostly guys that you pick up on the free agent wire, and then a month later, it's all guys that you trade for almost, or like a healthy mix, obviously.
That's the thing, too. There's no better feeling than trading a guy for someone who's kind of been underperforming, and the first 2 weeks you get him, that guy's batting like 400. He just starts exploding. It's the best feeling, and that's what I love to do. I love manipulating the waiver wire and getting guys who are hot at the right time and selling them off before, it's too late.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to get into right now is some guys that you can add on the waiver wire. One, I said I had like 2.5 before we started recording here. I'm just going to say, because, you might have to get to him kind of quick. Tonight, I'll start by saying this. Earlier this week, Miami lost Starling Marte. With Starling Marte, they're not a good hitting lineup. Without Starling Marte, they're going to be an even worse hitting lineup. So for the next 5 to 7 days, that's the minimum amount of time that Marte is going to be out. You should be streaming every pitcher you can against the Marlins. And tonight they get Aaron Sanchez. He's not a great pitcher.
He's been okay so far.
He's been okay so far, and he gets an easy task at 9:45 p.m. tonight. So if you're listening and you need a pitcher right now for tonight to win some categories like I do, I added him about 30 minutes ago. He's still available in a lot of leagues, so go do that one right now. Now I'm going to have 2 more. Steve's going to have 2, and we'll get out of here. Steve, kick off the final segment here.
So my first pickup of the week, I wrote about this earlier today. It's Danny Duffy of the Kansas City Royals. And I know you said Danny Duffy's burned you way too many times in the past to trust him. But here's the thing. Danny Duffy's free right now. He's owned in less than half of ESPN leagues, and his stats this year have been remarkable. He's got a .5 ERA, a 1.1 WHIP. He struck out 19 batters in 21 innings. I think he's got 3 quality starts. He's got a 2-start week next week. So this is why I'm going to pick up Danny Duffy, because hopefully next week he turns into my sell high. 2-start week next week. You got a guy who's got good stats, right? You get 2 starts. He plays the Tigers, and I believe it's the Twins. You know, the Twins have a pretty good offense. The Tigers' offense hasn't been great, but you never know what could happen. First off, a 2-start week. We love 2-start weeks in fantasy baseball. It's always a blessing to have guys, who can give you a starting pitcher, give you almost 12+ innings in a week. But if he does well in both those starts, you can get trade value for this guy. He's been a guy who's been, in and out of the waiver wire for the past, I think, 5-6 years in fantasy baseball.
Minimum.
And the thing with exactly. And the thing with Danny Duffy is to get him when he's hot and get rid of him when he's cold. And right now, Danny Duffy's pitching some of the best he's pitched in his career. He's not owned in half of ESPN leagues. I don't know what people are doing. I don't know. They look at the stats. Pick him up. He gets you 2 good outings next week. You're going to get a lot more for him, because next thing you know, he's going to be rated as like a top 15 starting pitcher, even though he's not that type of talent.
No, but that's how quickly things change in in fantasy baseball rankings. Those are never reflective of how valuable they actually are on the field. And so, the Danny Duffy call is fantastic. This might be the only time that there's a window where you can get him and sell on him. Like sometimes it happens 3 times in 1 year. Sometimes it only happens once. So especially with the 2-start week, 1 against Detroit, that's a great call. It really is.
And that's the thing too. I was shocked Danny Duffy was less than 50%. His ownership will probably go up 25% on Monday before the Detroit start, because everyone will see, he's pitching against the Tigers. He's been good so far this year. I want to stream that. Yeah. Get ahead of the curve. Pick him up, have him sit on your bench for, a few days of the weekend, and next thing you know, you got him against the Tigers before everyone else.
Yep. And my guy, again, is similar to that, based on potential, not what we know him for doing. Granted, you should know Avisel Garcia as someone who can produce. It's just 2 years ago he hit 20 home runs and had 10 stolen bases. So you could get him. Or it's really difficult to get someone capable of getting 20 and 10 on the free agent this late into the season. Right. And right now he's about to walk into a position where he's going to have even more opportunity with Lorenzo Cain and Christian Yelich out for a little bit. And his batting average is, I think, around 222 or something of that nature. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's lower.
It is lower, but he does have a hit in like the last 8 games or so. He is on a bit of a tear, and his hard hit rate is in the high 50s. His expected on base percentage is .456. And it's down in the low 300s right now. So the underlying numbers say that Avisel Garcia, with the new expanded role that he's about to walk into, should be able to capitalize and give you better than what he's done so far. And we know that there is the power and the talent there. The batting average might not be great, but if you need home runs, you need doubles, he's a guy, and stolen bases, obviously, he's a guy that can help get you there in those categories, especially with so many injuries right now. It's good to take a flyer on guys like this who have a proven track record of success in the MLB. And he does already have 4 home runs on the year, so it's not like he's done nothing,
I like that pickup too, because the Brewers' offense is starting to produce runs. They're getting a little better, and I love Christian Yelich to death, but he can never stay on the field. He really can't. Lorenzo Cain, same issue. The Brewers have a lot of good players. They just can't stay healthy. Avisail Garcia, he's going to have a spot in that lineup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember 2 years ago, I got him in a Jose Altuve trade, and it was outstanding, the return. I can't remember I got him in a pitcher for Jose Altuve. And it was by far one of the best fantasy baseball trades I've ever made in my life. I do have a soft spot for Garcia, so it was only a matter of time until I brought him up on here. Who is your last free agent ad for week 3?
So my last one's kind of a boring one because I think people are going to look at the ceiling and be like, he's not worth it. But right now, the 4th rated first baseman in ESPN leagues is Colin Moran of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh, man.
He's batting. I know. That's how bad first baseman's been. He's batting, I believe it's 298. He's got 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, 8 runs. The Pirates offense has been better than expected this year.
Better than expected, yes.
And he's batting cleanup. I mean, he's going to get you a lot of at-bats. He's playing every day for this team, and he's got 25, 30 home run power potential. And if you don't remember, a couple of years ago, there was another first baseman power hitter for the Pirates that was a free agent pickup right around this time, Josh Bell, who actually, made an all-star appearance because of a hot start. If Colin Moran can just, keep the power going, he can help you in the short term. And like I said, it's a free agent pickup. There's no risk involved with this. If you have a first baseman who's struggling, which I know a lot of owners do because Colin Moran's the 4th ranked one, pick up Colin Moran, plug him in while he's hot, see if he can keep giving you, some power throughout the next coming weeks, and wait for your other first baseman to pick it up. It's not going to hurt you to have Colin Moran in your lineup.
Yeah, that when I think I had Josh Bell that year, and I actually I drafted him because my league is that deep. Like, oh my God, the way we do our draft is we draft, like, we fill out the starting lineups and then we draft like the reserves, and so he was one of my reserve picks that year, and he ended up almost winning me the league. I lost first round in typical Wake fashion, but
I think it was 2 years ago. Josh Bell finished like the number 3 first baseman. He was incredible.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. No one heard of him before that. Colin Moran is a guy he's gonna play every day. He has that 30 home run potential. There's no risk to pick him up. If you have a first baseman who's struggling, there is zero risk to pick up Colin Moran and just plug him in for now. It might be boring. He's not a top prospect. He's not a guy people are sprinting to the waiver wire to get. But he's a guy you can plug in, and he's effective. And I will say, Colin Moran does have a little, soft spot in my heart because I went to a Pirates game, and before the game, we're all pre-gaming, we're all drinking, and we're all picking who we think's going to, have the best game. And I just threw out Colin Moran. No one's heard of him. I go, Colin Moran's going to have a great game. He's going to hit 2 home runs. And we're all laughing about that. We get to the stadium. He's not even in the starting lineup, not even playing. So I'm getting made fun of the whole game. What do you know? 8th inning, Colin Moran comes in to pinch hit with the bases loaded and hits a grand slam.
Wow.
I'll never forget that.
That's incredible. That's really – I come from a Pittsburgh sports family, and living in Buffalo, I was raised a Bills fan and a Sabres fan, and that's how I've always – but, like, I've been to a bunch of Pirates games, and I do have to say I do have some good memories of Colin Moran there too myself. So I do like that call, and I'm sure if my dad listens back to this, I'm sure he'll be happy that you brought him up too. What's up, Harry? How you doing? I'll get out of here with my last free agent. And now this is like a deep cut.
Okay.
But he's starting to get a bigger role with Tampa Bay. In the last 6-7 games or so, he's been in the leadoff role and he's been in the cleanup role. He's got a ridiculously high on base percentage at 400, and he has more walks than strikeouts, which is something that's really, really rare in baseball in general. And it's important too. And it's important too. It's Yandy Diaz. He's a first base and third baseman. So in a year, when first base has been such a wasteland, like, what's the worst you can do than bring in someone who's a steady, like, 250 hitter who gets a lot of walks? Like at the very least, he's safe, and his role is only going to expand in Tampa Bay. And honestly, I think that the 250 for his batting average, that's the floor right now. He's not getting any elevation on his hits is something. And that's the thing. If he can start getting less singles and getting the ball into the outfield a little bit more, I know that's something they've been working on in practice, and that's something that the coaches and the managers have been saying about Yandy Diaz that he needs to work on. If he does that, he could be one of the free agent finds of the year. He's already a top 200 fantasy baseball player, and that's with how many singles does he have right now? He has 14 hits, and 2 of them are doubles, and that's it.
Well, that's the thing with Yandy Diaz, and I love that pick because Yandy Diaz, he came on my radar a couple of years ago because he hits the ball so hard. He had the early, career Christian Yelich problem, the Vlad Guerrero the past couple of years. He just hits the ball into the ground. Yes. His ground ball rate has been so high his career, but he hits the ball so hard, and if he could just tweak the elevation just a little bit, he's going to start hitting a ton of extra base hits because he's a great hitter. He makes great contact. Just hits the ball into the ground.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to find a contact hitter who has that much power behind it.
Exactly.
And you said it. This is a problem that's easily fixed. Between Guerrero and Yelich, there's evidence of that. So Yandy Diaz is like, it just seems he's 4% owned on Yahoo, and he's taken in my league.
Oh no!
So, I figured this out. I was like, wow, this is a great pickup, and I'm like, wow, fuck you, Bump. Thanks for taking my guy. It was terrible, but you know what? When he eventually drops him, I'm gonna be right there to take him. I have him on my watch list, and everyone here should too. That's good. I think that's gonna be it for us today, Steve. I know it's weird only having 2 people here. I feel like I'm running out of breath. I might need to have another Bud Light seltzer for the road here because we're getting out of here a little soon. But nonetheless, I appreciate you being here, and I can't wait to do this again next week.
Hopefully next week we'll have Konzi and Nick back for a little Yankees rant because I'm always looking forward to that.
We didn't talk any Yankees this week, and let me tell you,
we gotta save it for them.
We gotta save it for them. I feel so good right now. I feel like my soul is cleansed. I didn't talk about Yankees baseball very much. I mentioned the name. Rob is the only reason that I even brought up the Yankees. I don't even think he's watching anymore because I kind of said I wouldn't say go Yankees. So that's a shame. Go Pirates, though. Go Blue Jays. That's where I stand. That's going to be it for us, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you.